things I've noticed is that the private energy efficiency programs, a lot of businesses want a 2-year payback period. Is there anything that you're doing with to encourage private businesses to make energy efficiency investments that they might not otherwise make? Are some of your programs that aim for that?
Yeah, look, they are. I think there's two ways to address that. The Better Buildings Partnerships, a lot of those companies have been doing programs, and they're probably looking at slightly longer paybacks than 2 to 3 years. And the reason for that is that you had new development coming in, and we have green stuff. So there's a whole bunch of factors that contribute to this, right? So one of them is that we have a Green Building Council that's been in Sydney or been in Australia for 10 years. Actually, previously used to work there before I joined the council. So they develop Green Star tools, and those Green Star tools have been the benchmark for design ratings of new buildings. So you see these new buildings come into the city, they set a new benchmark, and therefore drive the existing building owners to upgrade their existing buildings because they still want to compete. We have a high level of institutional ownership of our buildings in the city as a source, so 14 players over 50%. So it's a very strong competition. So we have a smaller industry, which means they can compete more. Green Building Council put out some great data to show that the cost of green buildings, for a 4, 5, 6 star, you've got about a 2 or 4, 8% premium to do that. And because, over time you built up this expertise, the payback becomes much more. So there's very strong competition which forces companies to take longer paybacks because they need to compete with their peers. That's one of them. The other side of things is the environmental upgrade agreement. That is a low-cost finance option to allow some of these things to happen, retrofitting of existing buildings. And it looks like they're being taken up in 2 kind of ways. One is just purely for the second-tier building owners who may not be able to get it financed any other way. They don't really have a good line of credit, something, so they can get it through this mechanism a lot more strongly. The second is with the more leading owners is that they might take partial financing through an EUA for the high-risk component of a 5-year payback, bringing that back to about a 3-year payback or a 2-year payback. So they mix that up to get a better payback on those buildings. So, and then I thought the third part of that is the Better Buildings Partnership. There's nothing quite as powerful as having all those CEOs and how do I say it nicely, maybe egos, the competitiveness of that to go with it. Having them in a room and having one of them sort of being able to say, well, I've done this and I've done that, or we're leading, and it's a very competitive environment. And, especially, so we've got benefits in this thing that probably wouldn't have committed to it. Yeah? And so you've got to do this push-pull kind of thing. From a planning perspective, we did a bit of analysis the other day looking at new buildings, and out of the building types that can be rated on a Green Star is really only supposed to apply to about 25%, the top 25%. We're getting about 90% of the buildings being rated on the Green Star, which is a really, really great outcome. And that's because we've got this perfect storm of really good rating tools, a well-informed industry, high institutional ownership, Better Buildings Partnership. You've got to have, I suppose the answer is that there's no one thing. You've got to have all these things in place, and they all slowly get a bit of traction on one, and then that goes quiet because, you push that as far as you can, and you're doing this one up, and, you just got to keep looking at all streams.
Michelle from SBI.
Sorry.
The very comprehensive strategies in place to achieve a sustainable vision of city. Could you share insights on the technology roadmap, because we want to understand, how this can get started, and also what are some of the challenges, and what are some of the systems or innovations actually, we use to create a more smart, smart network city.
Technology, okay. Thinking about commercial buildings is probably the focus statement. And look, there's the basic lighting upgrades. P5 lights, P5 lights, lighting is a really easy one. And the other thing that's also in place, another mechanism, is federal government implemented mandatory reporting of energy efficiency at point of sale. So any building or tenancy above 2,000 square metres has to disclose their neighbour's energy rating of that space at point of sale. And so that really has also weeded out a lot of the non-performers, because when they advertise their space in the paper, they have to have the energy rating of that space legally required. So that's another mechanism that's driving the marketplace as well. So to get back to your question of technology, so lighting is a very important one, and I say that mechanism is important because even tenancies have to advertise the neighbour's rating, and lighting is a very important one for this watt per square metre kind of target for that. So lighting is a big one. Variable speed drives in buildings, looking at the ventilation and the control systems in the building, insulation. Look, the whole suite of technology is probably not worth going into too much detail today, but look, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit in there, and I suppose what I've seen with the like companies like Investor and GPT, or probably two leading companies now in Sydney, what they do is their business model is they buy really old, badly performing buildings. The first thing they do before they even put in any technology is they just litter the place with meters. So they might go and put in 50, 60 energy meters in a commercial building, monitoring the lift, monitoring the lighting, monitoring ventilation, monitoring all that stuff, and they start to really understand the building. And first of all, that gives them an ability to control the building much better with the existing kit that's in there. It allows them to understand what are the big, or what are really technology easy hit issues, like variable speed drives and those kind of things. And then they'll implement a few of those, and then they can keep monitoring going forward. And so they're seeing sort of 50 to 60% reductions in energy consumption in these buildings through very little capital intensive kind of, it's probably 5 years worth of work that they do before they get to something that's really quite lumpy, like a upgrading the chillers, something like that, $2 million project, it's expensive. So there's a lot of things you can do before you get to that kind of milestone, that sort of 1 in 15 year project that happens on those places. So you don't answer your question, or I suppose there's that, but also LED lighting as well in the public domain. That's a really, that's another one we've been pushing, and I should say there's many other C40 cities, because we're part of the C40 that have done LED lighting. San Francisco is a great example of that. Other Scandinavian sort of cities as well.
Also, going to the technology roadmap,
right.
Yeah, for the how the government manage, the entire process, strengthening maybe surveillance, managing of smart, systems, thinking of environmental monitoring,
environmental monitoring. It probably hasn't been as big a focus as sort of setting the goals and letting the industry kind of come up to meet those goals. We do have a very strong building and compliance section, and they do a lot of, in terms of technology, we don't do a lot of online monitoring per se, but we are moving quite strongly into handheld technology for doing a lot of the building assessments and those kind of things. So taking all that electronically based, also building and maintenance of council-owned assets as well, so we can push all that back into a database. So we have an asset database, we also have force-based sensors as well, and all that information is used as a database to then generate a forward plan of what technology we need in the future. But it's probably just, I know I haven't answered your question fully, but it's probably not a focus, and that's probably why I can't answer it strongly.
I have a couple of questions for you, but my questions will be aligned more from a government perspective. The first question is, I guess you know that the 2020 vision is such a massive one that involves a lot of planning and a lot of follow-up for the year as well. How important do you think is having a very good institutional approach within the staff of City Council itself? And from the presentation, you do notice that there has been a lot of modeling work, planning work going on. How does the City Council get the buy-in of its internal staff and also develop expertise in that area? Because You did mention this point that the council actually stayed away from the non-traditional roles and led into new areas which were not familiar. So how do you bring up the capabilities of the internal staff? That is question number one. Number two is about behavioral change. One point you mentioned that 10 years down, this cause an impact on people's water consumption behavior, and it still remains so despite, coming out of the dump. But moving forward in terms of energy, has the city council done any previous work in terms of changing people's behavior and change? The third question is, I want to ask about political risk, because you did mention that the gas prices might go up because of that